Republican Party ever since 1968. How do you get those voters who agree with that, who like that, who think, oh, yeah, we don't want black people voting? How do you get them to vote for Democrats if the Democrats are saying we want everybody to participate in our democracy?
Not like that. There's no. What I'm trying to say is, in too many parts of this country, there hasn't really been an option for other people. For people, there hasn't been. You live in so many.
Oh, you had a Democratic senator from Alabama right next door to you for a while.
Look, the Democrat Party needs to speak in universal terms. If they are about working people and all these things, that transcends race. It transcends.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does, Jack. The message I've been hearing, the message I was hearing from Richard Nixon, those black people want your job. How are those two things not related? Race and economics. When that's the message of the GOP, pretty explicitly, by the way.
I'm not worried about the GOP's message. I'm worried about.
What I'm saying is, you're telling me, Jack, the Democrats need to basically be appealing to Republican voters because that's what's the majority of Mississippi. I get that.
Alabama has nothing to do with West Virginia or Wyoming or all this. There's plenty of these places. The Dakotas.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping the Democrat Party from actually putting resources in these places, which they should have been doing, which they didn't.
Yeah, with the Dakotas, I'm with you. With the Dakotas, I'm with you, and that's been some masterful branding, back in the 80s when the Republican Party decided that they were going to basically become the party of country music and NASCAR, and that was real slick, real smart stuff, and.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More information at hellofresh.com, code TOM. CB Distillery for sleeping and pain relief. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. Annie's Kit Clubs, creativity delivered right to your door. More info is available at annieskitclubs.com/Tom. EasyFlow, personal air filtration system. Fresh air anywhere. More info at easyflowusa.com, code TOM. Masterclass with world-class instructors. More info at masterclass.com/Hartman. And Dinovite, only the best all-natural pet supplements. More info at dinovite.com.
We say fight back!
So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV pledge drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me, the last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV pledge drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and you know, I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take Free Speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Funds Drive successful. We got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the Hidden History of American Oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And you know, thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, TGIF, Juma Mubarak, happy Friday. It is Anything Goes Friday, although the second hour of our program today, Congressman Khanna will be with us for the hour taking your calls in a progressive town hall meeting. In the third hour, I want to get into, I just have a couple of small rants, but mostly it's going to be Anything Goes Friday. But in the third hour is Kyrsten Sinema a new Roseanne Barr? I'll explain in the third hour. And is Anthony Fauci the new Hillary? I'll explain that in the third hour. As I mentioned in the second hour, Congressman Khanna will be with us. And but to kick it off, my kind of opening rant, and then, of course, as I said, you know, as Anything Goes Friday, the lines are open, 202-808-9925. Whatever you would like to talk about today, as well as what I want to rant about, is psychopath-driven inequality. Is it making society more sick? I mean, this is I think a huge issue, and one that we very rarely discuss. And that is the impact that psychopathy, this severe, I don't know if you, I guess you would call it a mental illness, but this severe condition that roughly 1% of humans have, where they don't feel other people's pain, essentially. They lack empathy. And they're willing to just crush anybody who gets in their way. These are the people who arguably brought us civilization. Right? I think I realize there are those who argue that there's an upside to psychopathy because, you know, hey, while it's 1% of our population, it's 20% of our CEOs. I think, frankly, the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party right now is that the Republican Party, which was headed by a psychopath for 4 years, Donald Trump, and I think we can easily back that statement up. Psychiatrist and professor of psychiatry at George Washington University Medical School, Dr. Justin Frank, on this program, has just come right out and said it, as have several other psychologists on this program. So the Republican Party has kind of reinvented itself in the psychopathic model, whereas the Democratic Party, and by the way, that would account for why the Republicans play brutal politics, take no prisoners politics. I mean, just look at Mitch McConnell. That is psychopathy. And then on the other hand, you look at the Democrats, well, let's compromise, let's work things out, let's collaborate, let's cooperate. That's how normal people are. That's how non-psychopaths are. You know, in the piece on this that I wrote for HartmannReport.com today, I talked about how decades ago, when I was doing international relief work for the Salem International Organization, I was in this little town in northern Australia called Lockhart River. It's an Aboriginal town. As I recall, it was like, 500 or 1,000 people. And they had a little school. And there was this one teacher who was giving me a tour. He was relatively new to the place. He'd been there about a year. He was a white guy who'd grown up in Sydney. And he was so eager to tell me about this amazing life-changing experience he had when he first got to the school. And what it was that he was, kind of supervising after-school activities, and the kids were playing soccer, and they had formed into two teams, and they would go back and forth in terms of which team was ahead. And then after about an hour, at some point, they just stopped playing and told him the game was over. And he was like, why? How do you know? I mean, I don't see any specific thing that tells me the game is over. And they were like, well, both teams have the same score. We're even. And he was like, whoa, this is incredible. I had been working in Petford, in fact, with another guy up there who was Aboriginal. Jeff Guest was his name. But in any case, I'm digressing slightly here, but the point is that value system of we're all equal, we're all in this together, we're all part of this, we look out for each other, we've got each other's backs. That value system is what the 99% of humanity who aren't psychopaths hold. And the I got mine, screw you, that's the 1% of psychopaths. And here's where it gets really interesting. Over on Bloomberg News today, piece by Peter Coy, the headline, the bottom 90% of Americans are borrowing from the top 1%. This is from a paper that was just published titled Indebted Demand by economists from Princeton, Harvard, and the University of Chicago. And in econ speak, this is what they said, quote, this is from their paper. A substantial amount of borrowing by households in the bottom 90% of the wealth distribution was financed through the accumulation of financial assets by the top 1%. Right. And so, then the question is, like, when did the psychopaths take over? Well, Daniel Quinn, I think, probably offers us the best answer to that question in his book, Ishmael, where he suggests that, and I quote him, and I cite this in at least two of my books, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight mostly, where, he pointed out that prior to the agricultural revolution, his phrase was, we all lived in the hands of God. In other words, we lived on a day-to-day basis, hunter-gatherers. But as we moved into climates, we, the human race, moved into climates that were seasonal, moved away from the equator, and developed agriculture, and this hit its peak around 7,000 years ago, it became possible for some people to lock up the food. And whoever locked up the food now controlled the power of life and death over all the people who didn't have the food locked up. They didn't have access to it. And those people who locked up the food 7,000 years ago became what today we refer to as kings or queens or CEOs or, robber barons. And here's where it gets really fascinating. What got me thinking about this and started on this was a headline I saw in Drudge yesterday, of all places. And it was a link to an article about how, from a gaming site, about how, and it was about game night, people having game nights in their homes and or online, and that the game that causes the most strife, the game that is the most banned in America, because it literally, according to them, 11% of the time can lead to a fist fight, is Monopoly. And Monopoly, of course, was invented back in 1903 by Lizzie Magie. She patented it in 1903, or at least what the precursor to Monopoly, the game that eventually became Monopoly, as a warning against unrestrained, unregulated capitalism. Monopoly is a warning, right? The game. It's a way of telling you this is how capitalism works if it's not regulated. Somebody ends up with everything and everybody else ends up with nothing. I mean, that's the goal of Monopoly, right? In a recent survey of 2,000 U.S. residents, 20% say their game nights with family or friends are often or always disrupted by competitive or unfriendly behavior. Monopoly stands out as the most debated and most forbidden board game of all time. The so-called good news is that, quote, only 11% of respondents say they witnessed a physical fight break out, end quote. Now, I'm not saying you should ban monopoly. It's a great, warning. But, the lesson from Aboriginal people, Indigenous people, and the 99% of us who are not psychopaths is that we'll all be better off if we can clean up our business culture and our political culture to purge them of psychopaths. Now, how do we do this? Well, we need to strengthen our democracy by giving an absolute right to vote to all Americans. That's H.R. 1, the For the People Act. And we need to get corporate and billionaire money out of politics. That's also H.R. 1. And then we need to start breaking up actual monopolies. I mean, the real monopolies. So, anyhow, picking up your calls after the break.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I think, by the way, all those things that I just described, while they may be a real challenge, I think they're all doable. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Jason in Homestead, Florida. Hey, Jason, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
I'm calling because a few weeks ago you were talking about, before you were talking about ways of getting politicians to pay attention, dealing with Manchin and the other woman with the filibuster and stuff like that.
Said about, yeah.
And I have experience in that as an activist. And I've been with what most people would consider activists that disturb people. And one way that, the only way I see it working is by occupying space that they live. And
that they
not
live?
Just occupying it nicely,
Wait a minute. I get the Occupy Wall Street movement. I get what ACT UP was doing in the 1980s. You're probably not old enough to remember, Jason. Maybe you are. I don't know.
I am actually.
Okay.
Old enough.
But the AIDS activists, when Reagan refused to even utter the word, ACT UP, they did some very outrageous stuff. But nobody was invading or harming other people's personal living space. That sounds like, frankly, the kind of stuff that a psychopath would do instead of an average person.
Well, see, that's pretty disturbing hearing from you, but I'll be truthful with you. I'll give you examples. I've been in, maybe I described it wrong or I told you wrong, but I've been in situations where we're protesting at the owners of animal cruelty houses on the sidewalk, yelling into their house.
Animal cruelty, you're talking about feedlot lot operations, intensive agriculture operations?
Well, not that. I'm talking about animal experimentation.
Yeah, okay.
Which is trying to be a big thing in my state. Yeah. So I've been in those type of situations.
Well, being on the sidewalk in front of somebody's house.
For that type of
I mean,
thing.
Cindy Sheehan and I stood on the sidewalk out in front of George W. Bush's house once with a bullhorn. Been there, done that, but not on a long-term basis, and we would never go in the house. I mean, you have to.
Well, you can't do that legally.
I think it is important to respect people's living space at some level.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that to an extent. I think you shouldn't go onto people's property. You shouldn't go into people's houses. I agree with that. But at the same time, you have to see what I've been to activism by Democrats and talked to people and Democratic politicians here in my state. And I can tell you, even people coming to those that are interested are telling me, "Oh no, I don't want my life disturbed by protesters." Well, that's what protest is about. And we've gone to a country where we want things soft and easy, as far as activism goes. And we can't have that. I mean, if you're going to survive, as you talk about all the time.
What you're talking about, Jason, though, is a highly personalized version of that. I mean, it's I don't know. I'm ambivalent about it. I mean, looking back on when Cindy and I and others. I mean, there were about a couple dozen of us there. Were outside Bush's place. I even feel ambivalent about that.
But I mean,
why not do that in front of their corporate headquarters? Why not? Essentially shame their
people do that now. People do that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know what? If you live on effectiveness, it's the whole life. You got to go to where they go to.
Yeah.
And make them uncomfortable, you know,
Jason,
so that they
I get
can't
it.
hide and feel safe.
I get it. Yeah. See, I think that we do need to be able to hide and feel safe in our society. All people should be able to. I really think that. Jason, thank you for the call. We'll be back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Over at ThomHartmann.com, we have our newsletter, our regular newsletter that Sue puts together every day. It's got a link in it to every single article that I talk about on the air. So you can see, you know, the backup for everything that I have to say. It's free. You know, there's some ads in it that just, you know, pay for it, basically. But that's it. There's that. And then, of course, over at HartmannReport.com, also no charge, there is our daily rant. So those are two things on the internet that we have. We also, you know, periodically put up videos specifically for the people who are supporters of our program. And you can find our most recent one. It's about guns. This sheriff in Volusia County, the sheriff deputy there, asking the media, you know, where have we gone wrong when a 14-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy are having a shootout with deputies? And Texas passing this bizarre new gun law. Anyhow, it's all over at ThomHartmann.com. You can find it right there. Check it out. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Garrett in Minneapolis. Hey, Garrett, thanks for listening to AM 950. What's up?
Hey, how are you doing? So my question is, should marijuana be legal all over the United States, and what should be the age? And
what should be what?
Should there be a regulation like age?
Oh, age,
like
AGE. Yeah, I think it should be regulated like alcohol, and I think that at 21, in fact, almost all of the evidence that marijuana has negative effects on cognition and memory, at least that I've read, suggests that impact when you can measure that impact, it's when it's consumed by teenagers and adolescents. So yeah, and the same is true of alcohol, by the way. Alcohol also, childhood alcoholics don't do well in later life. But these, it's an intoxicant, and just like alcohol is, and you're not going to stop people from using intoxicants. I mean, that was the big lesson of Prohibition in the 30s. And so, why do you ask, Garrett?
Just wondering, because I agree with that, too. I think they're doing it with tobacco, too, and I think it's a good thing because there's too many young people that are using it, and I agree that, yeah, there should be an age limit.
Yeah, the problem with tobacco is that it's only an intoxicant for about a week. I don't know if you've ever smoked. I started and stopped several times before I finally quit when I was 21, when Louise got pregnant with our first child, and that was it for both of us. But I used to quit smoking just so that when I started again, I could enjoy that first few days of basically getting high on tobacco. But it's so addictive and it's so destructive. If anything's going to be prohibited, I think it should be tobacco.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, there's too many people that are getting cancer from it and all that.
There you go. Yeah, it kills us, and it's not just cancer; it causes heart disease, it causes all kinds of conditions. Garrett, thank you for the call, and spot on. And by the way, it needs to be done at a federal level. We need to change the scheduling. Marijuana should not be a Schedule I drug. Holly in Washington D.C. Hey, Holly, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, something's been really bugging me, and maybe you can see something behind this. So we know Trump doesn't read, and we know he doesn't write. He doesn't do emails. We suspect a lot of his followers get all amped up just based on his rhetoric. Why did he not do a podcast? Why would he do a blog? See, that seems to me like some sort of a distraction against something else that he's up to. But I just can't make any sense out of it.
I'm guessing he didn't do a podcast for a couple of reasons. Number one, the podcast space is insanely competitive. Number two, there's not a social media for podcasts. There actually is now. There's an audio social media, but they're just, they're not going big, like Twitter did, and even YouTube, I suppose. You could say that there are podcasts on YouTube. But number three, I take, every day I take the rant that I write for HartmannReport.com, and after I publish it as a written rant, I sit down in the little studio in my house and I record it, and we send that out to people who subscribe to the newsletter as a podcast. Just by reading that rant. It has shocked me how much work goes into that, right? When I first proposed it, and Louise and Nigel said, "Oh yeah, let's do this," and, I was thinking, "Oh, I can bang this out in 5 minutes." No, it takes discipline, and I don't think that Donald Trump has discipline. I think a podcast would be too much work for him. It would require him to actually do it because it would have to be in his voice. Whereas with his blog, he can sit around his desk with a couple of aides and BS, what the general theme should be, and then they can turn it into something that reads well. So that's my guess.
Yeah. Well, the Anchor platform is pretty easy. It's a lot of people are on that, and they're just having chats. I mean, they're just talking, Yeah. But I don't know. I think we're going to find out, and I think he's up to something. Oh,
he's definitely up to something. He's going to give a speech tomorrow to the I think it's North Carolina Republican Party. It'll be his second speech since CPAC. CPAC was the first. It'll be his second speech since he left the White House. And
oh boy,
and I'm going to dig into this in the third hour in more depth. But everything we're hearing is that the new Hillary is Anthony Fauci. He's going to use much of his speech to trash Fauci, and what he's trying to do, frankly, is deflect blame for 500,000 dead Americans away from himself.
600 now.
Yeah. But I mean, 500, it was over 500 when he left office, or in the neighborhood of 500 when he left office.
Yeah.
And I think that we can clearly identify 500,000 dead Americans, the vast majority of whom should not be dead and would not be dead had Donald Trump actually acted like a president instead of acting like a reality TV show host, which is what, he was doing for 4 years. He was just, I'm running a reality TV show. It's called President of the United States. And, and now he's going to run a new reality TV show.
We just got to call.
Say what, Holly?
We just got to call the rally the scapegoat.
The scapegoat. There you go.
Scapegoat.
There you go.
Holly's going to be doing it.
There you go. Holly, thank you very much. Great to hear from you. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. We'll be back. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Anything Goes Friday, picking up your calls. And we're just getting started. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
What's on your mind? I think you have a sense of what's on mine. We also have a little more of the news for the day that I'll share with you. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me. The last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take Free Speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Fund Drive successful. We've really got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the Hidden History of American Oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So it's these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please. And of course, every day my daily rant goes up at HartmannReport.com. No advertising, no fee or anything like that. You can even get it pushed out to your email box for free. But we also have, podcasts available that are free through wherever your favorite podcast provider may be, or the full 3-hour program. It's a 1-hour podcast, the one that's free out there. There's also the 3-hour podcast available at ThomHartmann.com. And we have a special video this week for supporters of the Thom Hartmann Program. It's over at ThomHartmann.com about the 62 worst members of the U.S. House of Representatives and Josh Hawley in the Senate. These are the people who voted against the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which passed the Senate and the House overwhelmingly. But these 62 members of the House did what is just awful. You can check it out at ThomHartmann.com. And we'll welcome back 35 minutes past the hour, and Jerry in San Francisco. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Well, a year ago, our friend Sean Monterosa was murdered by the Vallejo Police Department, and we were in deep shock and grief. And then a year later, we have a rally against the Vallejo Police Department at the San Francisco City Hall on Sunday. And the keynote speakers are going to be Dolores Huerta and Angela Davis. And I think there's family members coming in from Kentucky and Minnesota, George Floyd's family. And
that's day after tomorrow?
The Taylors. That'll be Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a block party that the Sisters of Sean are putting on of all the people who've helped them throughout the year. So more of a personal celebration of Sean's life and honoring him. Mm-hmm. But those two sisters, I don't think the Vallejo Police Department counted on two of these young grieving people to organize such a great, massive media campaign. There's if I could list a bunch of them, but I'll just list one. The New Yorker magazine of November 23rd, 2020, written by Shane Bauer, didn't really talk so much about Sean's life as about the police department in Vallejo. And it's Vallejo, for those who don't know, is about 40 miles east of San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And Bauer's title is How Vallejo's Police Department Took Over Its Politics and Threatened Its People.
Whoa.
And and if you really want to know about a city not too far from San Francisco that could teach southern cities something about police brutality, and it's Vallejo. And that excuse me. And that article is really something.
Yeah.
And also the Guardian also has covered this case pretty well too. Not just Sean's, but the 19 other young people of color that's been killed by the Vallejo Police Department since 2010, and Vallejo is the highest rate, which is the highest rate in the entire state. Vallejo Police Department have done, and so I just wanted to let you guys know if you're ever in the San Francisco area on Sunday, it'd be great to come by. I think CNN is supposed to actually cover this, so
wow.
it's cool. It's really grown.
Okay. Well, you blew it out to a lot of people, Jerry, and I hope it goes well. Let us check in with us next week and let us know how it went. Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Good talking to you, Jerry. Thank you. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's up?
Hey, I saw two movies in the last several days. One of them was the Enron story, which is about psychopaths who like to get rid of regulations and taxes and everything.
Ken Lay and Company.
Right. And the other one was Atlas Shrugged and the Bible of conservatives.
Right. Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Oh, you saw the movie based on the novel, the first part of it? They were going to do a multi-part series, and I think they only came out with the first two, didn't they?
I saw all three.
All three. Okay, so they did it. I only watched the first two.
They could not be more different. One of them, Enron, is a real life situation where these psychopaths get rid of regulations, lower taxes, and then all heck breaks out in California where we have blackouts, and it just puts California in total chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And the president and the Congress was also involved in that. And then you have Atlas Shrugged, where they give the rich people in Atlas Shrugged get rid of regulations, and then they all move into a separate location.
Right,
where
Galt's
they make a
Gulch.
utopian. Pardon?
John Galt's Gulch.
Yeah, where they make a utopian. What do you call it?
Society.
Government.
Yeah.
Yeah, society where everybody is living in log cabins. There's no pollution, and they're creating all these fantastic devices where they get free energy, and just everything is just as perfect as it could possibly be. And there are no blackouts.
And there are no workers.
and everybody's happy. And it's just an amazing.
It's a fantasy.
It's a total fantasy. And we have Republicans in our government right now looking at this stupid story that Rand wrote, and they're making policy off of this.
Yeah, Paul Ryan used to require his interns to read it before they could work for him.
It is absolutely amazing.
It really is.
I'll end this with Biden just got a jobs report where 500 plus thousand jobs were created, and that's more jobs created under Biden than the last 16 years of Republican occupation of the White House.
Wow, that's brilliant, Larry. Thank you for that. And by the way, in Atlas Shrugged, if you watch the movie, in the novel, what the billionaires did before, John Galt led them off to his gulch, to Galt's Gulch, they went on strike, basically. They were sick and tired of Dagby was sick and tired of her railroad being that she had inherited from her father, by the way, being regulated. And so the billionaires went on strike. And as a result of the billionaires going on strike and leaving to go off to Galt's Gulch, the entire American society fell apart. Now, I think in the real world, if all the billionaires went away, I don't think the society would collapse. In fact, I think things might get better.
It's the exact opposite of the real world situation of Enron, where Enron collapsed after regulation disappeared, and after Enron was located in a low tax state. I do understand where Rand got that story from. She was probably this was in the 50s when taxes were at 90% for the corporates, and I think she wrote that story as a backlash for that period. But even in that period, society was better off with the high taxes, and I think they were too high at the time. But even with higher taxes that are too high, society was better off than what happens when Republicans get their wish.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind that top 90% tax bracket didn't kick in until you started making over about $3 million in today's dollars. And what that did was it served as a cap on CEO salaries. CEOs never made more than $3 million in today's dollars. I mean, the average CEO is making, at the most $1 million, a couple $100,000 a year, which was big money, back in the day. But yeah, spot on. Larry, I gotta move along, but thank you for the call, and especially the jobs report. That was a great one. I know you're always on that line, that path, and you do a great job with it. Thank you, Joseph in Sun Valley, Idaho. Hey, Joseph, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom.
Hey,
I'll tell you, I find you guys totally inspirational, and the fans. And I have a kind of an in-house question. It seems, and I would love to know what people think, but I've been retired now for a couple of years, and I've been able to take a deep dive into all the great information that's out there about our country. And I'm curious because it seems to me that almost the more you know, the less, even with progressive people, they seem like they just hate to talk about all these issues. And my question is it me or are your other listeners experiencing this? That, like for instance, I hadn't seen my neighbors before the riot. And the day before I texted them and I said, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, you mean January
6th. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And I texted him, I go, oh, it was the day of the riot. And I texted him, I said, are you watching this? And he texted me back like 8 hours later, he goes wild. And I hadn't talked to these people since like last week. And they live behind me, and we live in a beautiful community. And you would think that they would say something about, what has transpired since the election and all this craziness. But it almost, to me, people are almost shut off as far as communicating. And I'm wondering what your listeners have.
Well, I think there's a reason for it. And I think it's the reason why so many Germans back in the early 1930s just checked out of politics and just started ignoring all the stuff that Hitler and his buddies were doing. You've got the equivalent of the brown shirts out there. You've got people running around with guns who are willing to kill you for your politics. So, I mean,
exactly.
They have a lot of Americans cowed. I totally get it. And people on either side, people who are not psychopaths are not enthusiastic to jump into that fray. I do it for a living, but it's like, so I'm kind of stuck with it. But, because I think it's really, really important. But, I get it. It's a good question, Joseph. We'll see if other people want to weigh in. Thank you for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Anything Goes Friday. Back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stick around. And welcome back. Mark Taylor Canfield. Hey, Mark. How's Seattle?
Hey, Tom. Well, it's been great weather here, but don't tell anyone. But I've been covering the police. I've been covering the killing of Manuel Ellis by police in Tacoma as a journalist. And it looks like we may have finally turned a corner in this country in terms of police accountability, because I have a piece published at Daily Kos about this, but the Washington Post has covered it, the New York Times, the Guardian. And last week, 3 Tacoma police officers were charged with felonies in the case of Manuel Ellis, who died in police custody while handcuffed last year. And our Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson, a very fearless guy, filed second-degree murder charges against 2 of the officers and then manslaughter against the third. And, although we have a long way to go, I think Washington State used to have the weakest law in the nation regarding prosecution of police, but recent legislation has made it much easier to hold cops accountable, and there are more laws on the way through the state legislature which will address this problem. But it's good to see some movement on this front, and I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement has really changed the dialogue and resulted in a whole new, effective, and vital civil rights movement, especially in Seattle and Tacoma.
I agree.
And I've seen changes in the news coverage, too, amongst my colleagues in journalism in the way that even public officials are approaching police policy, and so it's a good start, Unfortunately, we can't bring the folks back who've been killed by police, but maybe we can stop the madness that's led to this situation in the U.S. And I'm hoping that the prosecution of police in Minneapolis and Tacoma will signal a new era where cops are finally held responsible for their actions instead of being given immunity from prosecution, which is a situation that's been promoted by many of the so-called police unions, which are actually professional guilds, not labor unions. And by the way, the Seattle Police Guild has been kicked out of the Martin Luther King Jr. County Labor Council here in Seattle, because the other labor unions said they're not a labor union; they are a professional guild.
What does that distinction mean? I didn't realize there was a difference. Sorry.
Well, professional guilds would be like the Society for Professional Journalism that I belong to, where it's an organization that's there to advocate for a particular profession, but it's not there to organize unions. It's not there to organize with other unions. They did not play well, let's put it that way, with other unions, and they did not set a standard that the other labor unions thought was something that would qualify. But they do negotiate,
wages and benefits on behalf of their members. I mean, doesn't that make them unions?
Well, they don't call themselves that, though. They actually call themselves the Seattle Police Officers Guild, or the Seattle Police Officers Association. So it's not. They don't even call themselves a labor union, but there has been at least one federal judge up here who said the Seattle Police Guild will not hold the city hostage in future negotiations, because unfortunately what they do a lot of times is try to block civil rights reforms, because the Seattle Police Department was under review. They're under a consent decree because of an investigation by the Department of Justice for racial profiling and excessive use of force. So oftentimes they try to block those kind of civil rights reforms during the contract negotiations. And that is what the federal judge was really incensed about. And a lot of people up here have not appreciated the fact that, they're so intransigent, and also that they voiced some very, very right-wing anti-Black Lives Matter propaganda, which is also not something the other labor unions agree with.
Yeah, and what the white supremacist movement has I was going to say wormed its way into police departments all across the country, but really our whole notion of policing is founded in that, going back to the slave patrols. Mark, thank you very much. Mark Taylor Canfield. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. In addition to the free newsletter that we have over at ThomHartmann.com, which gives you literally a link to every story or article I've talked about throughout the day, every day, comes into your email box every day. There's no charge. In addition to that, and my daily rants, which are free of advertising and free of charge over at HartmannReport.com, we also produce a weekly video. This week's video is about how power companies around the country, for-profit power companies 100% of the time, these power companies around the country are making it harder and harder and more expensive for people to install solar in their homes. All kinds of ways of trying to block people from doing this. And increasingly, they're getting support from Republican politicians, both at the local and the state level. It's something that we really need to know about, we need to be paying attention to, and we need to be aggressively pushing back on. You can check it out over at ThomHartmann.com and at HartmannReport.com. And welcome back. It's Anything Goes Friday here, taking your calls. Cliff in Santa Clarita, California. Hey, Cliff, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Brother Tom, I'll get right to my point.
Thank you.
Global water crisis. I got a good friend who's very intelligent. He says in California they need to build more reservoirs. Now, I don't know if that would play around the world, but the desalination plants, is there a better solution to the water crisis than building a bunch of desalination plants?
Yeah, recycling. And
recycling water?
Yeah, it's been, I believe it's been done in Los Angeles. It's been done in a number of places around the world. But I think that we're going to get there. We have no choice but to get there. It's a technology that is solid. It's well advanced. You just take basically the wastewater from a city and you process it, and you can drink it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of the water just goes into the ocean. Now, let me ask you one more question. Do you think one of the problems that this hasn't been accelerated so far is because there's not enough profit motive for the private sector?
It's a relatively small industry right now, but as the global water crisis...
If there was more of a profit motive for private industry.
Well, that's where I was going. As the global water crisis gets worse, you're going to see more and more demand for this kind of thing, and you're going to see larger companies or the companies that are in that space right now growing to meet that demand. There was a fascinating piece that I read in the Oregonian last night, our local paper here in Portland or in Oregon, about the Klamath River, and how it is drying up. And you've got the tribes who have first rights to the water, and then you've got the endangered fish who have second rights to the water because of federal law, and then you've got the farmers who have third rights to the water. And the river has gotten so bad that they're not delivering water to any one of those three groups, none of them. And it's the first time it's ever happened like that. There's a major drought going on here in Oregon. And, it's all up and down the West Coast. We're watching climate change right now, right in front of us. And water is, and the amazing part of the story about the Klamath River, and the Oregonian story just kind of mentions it in passing, but there is a reservoir that can be opened to let the water out. The problem is that they're trying to regulate it, for a whole bunch of reasons. But A couple of guys associated with Ammon Bundy, who looks like he's going to be running for governor of Utah, or Idaho, excuse me. But a couple of guys associated with Ammon Bundy bought land that is right on the edge of where this reservoir is. And there is a concern that they're going to breach the dam, that they're going to blow it up, which, by the way, happened 11 years ago in a similar situation in another part of the country. And so, it's like the water wars are beginning. Now, you've got multiple states suing each other over water right now. That's been going on for about a decade. Federal law needs to be, I think, to some extent reinvented around this, but it's
all right, Tom,
tough stuff.
Real quick, what about, do you think it'll be similar to this vaccination thing, the vaccine, where the third world countries are going to be the last to get, clean water, just like
yes,
they're always last on the list?
Well, the third world countries are the last to have clean water right now. There's a large.
That's what I mean.
Chunk.
Their crisis is worse than most places.
Yeah,
they need it worse than ever.
I
and
don't
they're
recall
the
exact statistic, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of half or more than half of all humans on Earth don't have access to reliable, clean water. And the number it really is. It's just not a good thing. Cliff, I got to run. Thanks a lot for the call. Jim in Novato, California. Hey, Jim, thanks for listening to KFOI. What's up?
Well, thank you, Tom, for pulling me in. I'm listening to you all the time, and I'm recognizing and writing a book kind of along the lines of what you're thinking. But the idea of ownership is, the way we own, and especially remote ownership of land, corporate ownership, because we are dominating nature, which I think that comes out of the relationship of men and women. We start to dominate it, and then that's where ownership comes in. This is mine, not yours. This is mine, not yours. And so it's our ethic of domination and leading to ownership. And ownership, the way we do it, of land, water, and air, those are the elements of life. And through capitalism, we've commoditized those, call them resources.
Correct.
And then we monetize them, and in that way, while we're dominating, we give this monetary value, and that makes them how we translate it into power becomes the proxy for power. And so, if you have a lot of money, you have power. If you don't have it, you don't have power. But that's all an illusion, because every human being that's born has power, and we've all been.
Well, I don't think it's an illusion at all, Jim. I think it's very real.
Well, it is, because we all bought into it.
Yeah.
We all bought into it.
Well, I agree. There's a societal consensus, and that's why we need to change the rules around that, which is, changing our laws. Jim, I got to run. I'm sorry. We're out of time. It's the end of the hour. But thank you for the call, and it's nice to hear from you. Up next, Congressman Khanna will be with us for the hour, taking your calls in a National Progressive Town Hall meeting.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More information at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. CB Distillery for sleeping and pain relief. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. Annie's Kit Club's creativity delivered right to your door. More info is available at annieskitclubs.com/Tom. EasyFlow, personal air filtration system. Fresh air anywhere. More info at easyflowusa.com, code Tom. Masterclass with world-class instructors. More info at masterclass.com/Hartman. And Dinovite, only the best all-natural pet supplements. More info at dinovite.com.
We say fight back!
So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me, the last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and you know, I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take Free Speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Funds Drive successful. We got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the Hidden History of American Oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So it's these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to our National Progressive Town Hall, or welcome back to the second hour of our program. It is our National Progressive Town Hall meeting with Representative Khanna, 17th District of California, a vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and Congressman Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov, his website. You can tweet him at Rep. Khanna. Congressman Khanna, welcome back. I'm curious your take on this ongoing sideshow in the Senate right now. I realize you're in the House, but one of your colleagues, in fact, as the Biden administration has been negotiating with the Republicans, and I put that in scare quotes, and has gone from 2-point-something trillion down to 1 trillion roughly on the infrastructure bill, and now is saying, oh, well, maybe not raise taxes on corporations. One of your colleagues, Representative Bowman from New York, is saying, I'm a Democrat and I can't vote for this bill. It's now basically a Republican bill. What's going on? What are your thoughts on all this?
It's a terrible mistake. Let's, Tom, start with some facts because, I represent Silicon Valley. The market cap of companies in my district, just in my district in the Bay Area, is $10 trillion. $10 trillion, the market cap of tech companies. That has gone up 37% in the year of the pandemic, meaning when most people were being laid off, when most of us people had difficulty making their bills, and if you didn't have the luxury like I do of working remotely, you had huge challenges. These companies made $10 trillion. Are you telling me that these companies can't have an increase in corporate tax when you have companies also like Amazon that actually last year got a tax rebate? So it is offensive to have a Democratic proposal where we're going to say we're going to freeze the corporate tax rate when you have the most unprecedented wealth generation by corporations probably in American history.
Yeah. So you're apparently not a fan of that. What else?
Well, I think he's going to... Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think they're going to have a lot of problems in the House if they don't make a bold proposal. It's one thing to say, look, we're not going to get 28, we're going to get 26, or we're not going to get all 5 fossil fuel subsidies eliminated, we're going to get 3. The progressives have always been willing to compromise and work in good faith. But to say we're not going to do the president's plan of raising taxes on corporations and the ultra-wealthy, repealing some of the Trump tax cuts to fund basic infrastructure and help the working class, I mean, that's contradicting what we ran on. Right. We ran on that.
Is the... And feel free to tell me, it's a negotiation. I'm not going to show my hand right now, but let me just bluntly ask, is the Congressional Progressive Caucus going to insert itself into this process and the way that the Republicans have and say, no, wait a minute, you're going to do it our way or you're going to have some serious problems, or at least we're going to get closer to our way?
Yes, I mean, I don't want to commit the Congressional Progressive Caucus on the Hartmann show or hear a lot from my colleagues, but I could just say, based on the conversations I've had, many progressives are not happy. We're not going to just roll over, and the president recognizes he's got a margin of just 4 votes in the House. Nothing can pass without the progressive support. And I think we'll make it very, very clear that if there is not a clear plan to raise corporate taxes and pay for some of the bigger initiatives, that they may not have the votes.
Yeah. I salute you. Anything else you wanted to toss out before we pick up phone calls? Because we got a whole board full of calls. People want to talk to you.
This is the current issue, and it's not just about infrastructure. It's about what are the next 4 years going to look like.
It's about governance.
Yeah. Are we going to have the campaign we promised, the American people, the agenda that we promised, or are we going to just engage in the same kind of incrementalism that has been the cause of so much inequality?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's pick up some phone calls here. Paula in Miami, Florida. You are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Paula.
I think that it's illegal, but the bills passed by the House and the Senate and then signed into law with the president, the states don't abide by the laws. Like Obama put the money out up front, like 90%.
You're talking about for Medicaid here, right? Right, Paula?
Yeah. Florida didn't expand Medicaid. Florida didn't abide by the law. And now they won't abide by the law of the $300 on the
unemployment insurance. Right.
Yeah,
so, Paula,
the
is there a question in there, or did you want to toss that out for Congressman Khanna to clarify?
I have a question. If they pass, if Biden signs the For the People Act, what if the Republican governors just not do anything? They won't abide by the law.
What if they refuse to go along with new voting standards? I get it. Paula, thank you. Congressman?
Well, it's a very thoughtful question. And, of course, this was an issue in the 1960s where we passed the Voting Rights Act, we passed the Civil Rights Act, and there were a number of states that refused to enforce a federal law, refused to comply, and the president had to, in certain cases, have federal troops go in or federal enforcement through the DOJ. I hope it won't come to that with history repeating itself, but if we do pass the For the People Act and have basic voting rights provisions, if states disregarded that, they would be in violation of federal law, and then the president would have the authority to enforce federal law.
Yeah, there you go. Nancy in Woodland, California, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna. We have about a minute and a half to the break.
Republicans in Congress. Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Yeah. Can we ever expect to see Republicans in Congress, like Hawley and Cruz, expelled and charged with sedition, as they should have been done?
Well, I think we're having a full investigation. I know that the FBI, Justice Department are looking into it. I know it feels slow, but they are doing a thorough job. And let's see what they come up with. Were there members of Congress or senators who were directly involved in aiding, abetting the insurrectionists? And based on those reports, it could lead to action by the ethics committees.
Do you, or we just have 45 seconds, do you or any of your colleagues have any concerns about Christopher Wray? He, after all, was put into that position as head of the FBI by Donald Trump.
You know, honestly, Tom, Chris Wray seems to me one of the more decent, honorable people that Trump had appointed. He seemed to have some independence. I mean, I'm waiting to see what comes of the investigations, but he strikes me as someone with more integrity than a lot of the other hacks that
he's not a Louis DeJoy.
No,
yeah,
no. I'm not saying that we. I think we want to make sure. But I think President Biden came in and he said he doesn't want to in any way repeat some of the things Trump did, and so
politicize the Justice
firing
Department.
an FBI director right off the bat, I think would have been raised people's anger.
Yeah, totally get it. 15 minutes past the hour. Congressman Khanna is with us for the hour in our National Progressive Town Hall meeting, taking your calls for the hour. Congressman Khanna represents the 17th District of California. Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov. On the internet, you can tweet him at @RepRoKhanna.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna in just a moment. Stick around. And welcome back. Zach in North Hollywood, California. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Morning, gentlemen. I'd like to point to a compromised FCC where you can't curse, can't use toilet talk, but you can spew right-wing propaganda for 25 years straight every day of the week. Now, I would like to ask you, if you Photoshop the faces of Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Rupert Murdoch, and Donald Trump onto the first four guys breaking into the Capitol, would the message be accurate?
Congressman.
Well, Zach, I think you raise a very important point of the First Amendment. Look, the law currently is that you can have regulations for what they call civility and decorum, which is why you can regulate cursing, but you can't have regulations on viewpoints. So you can't say conservative or liberal viewpoints are not allowed. The problem, as Tom has talked about many times before, is one, we don't have a fairness doctrine, so you can have this speech that is totally skewed to one side of a viewpoint, and you don't really have a marketplace of ideas. And two, as Tom, again, has written about extensively, you've had the conservatives who structurally bought up a lot of these radios, bought up a lot of local cable, so only their side is getting heard. And my view is I'm fine with having provocative views out there, but there has to be both fairness in terms of getting the other side there, and we need to have a more investment in our structural media to counter the disinformation. In terms of the insurrectionists being influenced by some of the personalities you said, I mean, I think that's obvious, and the question is, how do we counter that?
Joe in Cupertino, you're on the air with your congressman.
Good morning, Tom, and good morning, Congressman. I enjoyed to speak with you again. I was just learning the other day that there's an offer being $10,000 for healthcare workers in California, or I guess around the country, because of the global pandemic as a way of being gracious. I thought that was a great idea. And the governor's supporting it. I guess the private sector has said, we can't do that. The Chamber of Commerce doesn't support it. We can't support that. I just thought that was an interesting position. But I wanted to bring to your attention something that came to my mind today. I read that the district attorney here in our county is mad or upset that the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol never notified them that they had investigated the shooter in 2016. This interoperation communication or failure has got to stop. Too many times we see that we are investing money in trying to prevent things like this from occurring, and then we have the information after the fact. We find out we knew about it, but they didn't tell the local people. I wonder if you could do something to try to improve the communications that occur at the federal level to the local government so that we can avoid these types of needless incidents.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. And for the national callers who may not know, we had a horrific incident in our district in San Jose last week, a horrific week. 9 people were killed. Someone went into our VTA office. The VTA are public servants who run the public transportation in Silicon Valley and San Jose and opened fire and killed 9 people. And a lot of the FBI and law enforcement knew about this individual and some of the threats, and that didn't get to the local law enforcement. So we need better coordination, but we also need far better gun laws to make sure that people like this individual don't have access to guns. He had apparently hordes of ammunition at his house, and just a terrible situation.
Yeah. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at ThomHartmann.com if you want to really support our program. We're trying to provide the very best content that we can for you at Hartmann Report and over at ThomHartmann.com. And on Hartmann Report, every day, 6 days a week, I write an op-ed. Very often they're my rants, also for the radio and television program. And it's ad-free, commercial-free. It's free. You can sign up. It'll get pushed into your email box. Check it out at HartmannReport.com. And, of course, over at ThomHartmann.com, we have our weekly video that we put up every week that does a deeper dive for people who are members of our program of ThomHartmann.com. And the one this week is about this Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, SIGAR, their new report that almost 20 million Afghans are on the verge of starvation and nobody's talking about it. Check it out at ThomHartmann.com. Congressman Khanna taking your calls for the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, a national town hall meeting. Paul in Woodinville, Washington, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, Congressman, I would like to ask you this question. Would it not be beneficial that in the next bill that passes by reconciliation in the Senate, that the House offer what I am calling the Little Red Hen Amendment, which means that from there on out, that all spending bills that pass through Congress, if they pass, shall be distributed only amongst the federal districts whose representatives voted for them, and none to the districts that voted against it. For that is what their representatives would have had for them. Nothing. And that is, of course, the ethic that we were taught as children in the fable, The Little Red Hen, where the little red hen wanted to bake bread and none of the animals would help. And when the bread was done and ready to eat, of course, all the animals wanted it. But she said, you took no part in planting the seed and threshing the wheat and grinding the grain, kneading the dough, forming the loaves and baking the bread. You shall take no part in eating it either. And that's what we need, because we have Republicans who are taking part and taking credit for bills that Democrats are passing, like the COVID relief bill. The Little Red Hen Amendment needs to come now. Thank you.
Great rant. Congressman? Congressman Khanna? Did we lose him?
I said I appreciate the sentiment. The challenge, of course, is that even in Republican districts, first of all, you may have 25% of people who are Democrats. You still have union workers there. You still have people of color there. You still have people who are single parents there. And it would be cruel to penalize all of them because of the ignorance or poor judgment of their representative. What I think we have to do, and what President Biden has started to do, is to be a little bit more explicit about the hypocrisy. President Biden said, well, I hear my Republican friends are taking credit while voting against it. I think some of us can start naming who those Republicans are and actually highlighting that in these districts. And if we do that a little more aggressively, I think it will have the impact that you want.
Tom in Boston, Massachusetts, you are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Congressman. He took the wind out of my sails a little bit, the red hen man. That's exactly what I'm getting at. I'm hoping for a united front between the president and Congress, select groups maybe, to take some airtime, get a hold of it, take the momentum back, and through truth and reality and fact, say we're going to do this. We are going to penalize you guys. And you can say it's ignorance, Congressman. I'm sorry. but they're winning with divide and conquer, you know, and the tail is wagging the dog, and we keep losing these divide and conquer, hypocritical, fearmongers. So we need to get together. We need to tell them this is the way it's going down, and we need to make them feel the pain because they're making us feel the pain. That's all I can say. We need to do something. And he's got the right idea, and that's what I was trying to say. Thank you for listening. I hope you keep a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, thank you. I hear you. I understand the frustration. They've shown not an iota of good faith. They are a party that are more radicalized, more Trump-like. They couldn't even support a bipartisan commission to investigate the insurrection and the attacks on the threats on Vice President Pence. So I'm all for calling out their behavior and not engaging in a moral equivalence. The dysfunction isn't because Democrats aren't willing to work across the aisle. It's because the Republicans have literally failed to support policies that have 80% approval. And I do think we have to call out the Republicans in these districts who are now claiming credit for the stimulus checks because they see how popular it is. We probably ought to be on TV in their districts pointing out their hypocrisy.
Steve in Phoenix, Arizona, you're on the air with Rep. Khanna. We have about a minute and 15 seconds to the break. Oh, no, wait a minute.
Thanks, Tom.
2 minutes, Sean? 1 minute, I'm sorry. Yeah, go for it, Steve.
Thanks, Tom, and good morning, Congressman Khanna. Could we get the Biden administration to properly staff the IRS? They've been getting cut and woefully understaffed for years. I personally have been waiting approximately 2 months for a $2,000 to $3,000 refund, and I know a lot of other people have been. But more importantly, the very wealthy have been skating by for years with lack of proper scrutinization of their taxes, and we're losing thousands in revenue. I'll take your answer off the air. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, I couldn't agree with you more. Please look at my Stop Cheaters Act. It does exactly this. To be precise, we're losing $1.2 trillion in revenue, and it's largely from the top 1% and corporations. They're hiding their income. This is not tax avoidance, it's tax cheating. We spend more time in the IRS going after the poor individuals in some of the poorest counties for false EITC claims, earned income tax rate claims, than we go after people who are actually the wealthiest. We need to have audits. We need to beef up the IRS.
Yeah. Amen. Congressman Ro Khanna, Representative Ro Khanna, Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, is taking your calls for the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. That's our national town hall, progressive town hall meeting. We'll be back with more of your calls for Representative Khanna in just a moment. Stick around. We're just getting started.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
You can find Representative Khanna's website at Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep.Ro, R-O, Khanna. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me, the last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and you know, I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take free speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Fund Drive successful. We got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the Hidden History of American Oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So it's these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please. Share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Hey, we have a couple of special things over at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com. Of course, at HartmannReport.com, every single day, well, 6 days a week, Sunday accepted, I write a rant about an issue of the day that I think is important. Louise and I work on these together. We get them out typically around 6 in the morning Pacific time. And you'll find that at HartmannReport.com. It's free. You can sign up for it. There's no ads, whatever. But also over at ThomHartmann.com, we have a video every week for the supporters of our program. And the one this week is about how Wisconsin is trying to remove, in fact, they just got permission from their Supreme Court to remove 188,000 people from the voting rolls because they haven't voted in 4 years. This highlights the importance of getting to know who is your state representative, who is your state senator, and communicating with them regularly. It's all over at HartmannReport.com and ThomHartmann.com. Congressman Khanna is with us for the hour, taking your calls. And Congressman, I know you just headed over to your office. You're still with us? Everything's good, right? Oh, I am not hearing you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now I hear you just fine. Okay, great. Okay, let's pick up our phone calls here. John in Long Island, New York. John, you are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Yes, hi, great. Hi, Representative Khanna. My question, now that the Democrats are in power, why isn't there any even feeble attempt at sort of a reckoning for the Mueller report cover-up? Why don't you have Bill Barr testify under oath and ask him why he covered up the obstruction of justice charges? What was his motivation? Why aren't you doing anything?
John, it's a great point. The Speaker had appointed a select committee to look into all of that, led by Clyburn. But I'm on the Oversight Committee, and it's a point I'm going to raise with Chairwoman Maloney, that we ought to have people like Barr. We ought to see what the cover-up was, and we ought not to drop it. So you're absolutely right to raise it, and I appreciate it.
Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Jeff, you're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hey, good morning, Tom and Congressman Khanna. Thanks, as always, for the town hall. Congressman Khanna, it's great that you and your fellow progressives like Pramila Jayapal and Jamal Bowman are pushing back hard against any radical concessions to the GOP. We can never forget their only goal is to shrink government for the people and give all the power to billionaires and giant corporations. My question today, Congressman, though, is concerning your bill that allows states to use federal funds to set up their own Medicare for All programs. There was a post on Common Dreams last weekend that worried about this being a threat to national Medicare as we know it. So I'm wondering, is it possible to put a provision in your bill that would allow people already on Medicare to remain on Medicare, and then the states would only have to cover all the remaining people, which now would be people under 65, but we can simultaneously fight to lower that age to 50 or 55? Thank you, Congressman Khanna.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, the bill is a complement to a national Medicare for all. Obviously, I strongly believe we need national Medicare for all. I've been a strong champion of the bill. But one of the ways Canada got there, it was to have states do it through states like Saskatchewan. And all the bill says is that if you are willing to have a single-payer system to cover everyone, you should be able to use your federal funds to do that. But you raise a good point that we shouldn't have people being pushed out of the Medicare for All Medicare program to be able to do that. As a practical matter, I don't think states will do that. But I don't see no harm in clarifying that the states shouldn't be allowed to do that in the bill.
Earthel in New York City. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Okay, Representative Khanna, I want to know what's going to happen to the money that's already been allocated, and for the Republican states that's refusing to give to the unemployed.
So that money is sitting there in the federal treasury, and there is some ability to have discretion in how to use it. I believe the president wants the governors to take the money. If they still refuse to do it, then we will have to repurpose it into trying to help people who the money was intended for.
Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. You are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hi, Tom. Hello, Representative. Many years ago, Tom and I had a discussion on the definition of treason, as to that anyone who willingly, knowingly, and deliberately does anything that's detrimental to the country should be charged with treason. And to me, these people in Congress, particularly in the Senate, who have refused to vote for an investigation into the January 6th incident are not doing their job. They are violating their oaths for protecting the Constitution and serving this country. Isn't there anything that y'all can do to investigate these people and to find out what is their reason for refusing to have an investigation into why our Capitol was attacked and they intended to overthrow our government? Why are these senators failing to support an investigation?
You raise a good point. I mean, the answer is Donald Trump. They're so afraid of what Donald Trump thinks that they are more beholden to him than ever before. And they are concerned if they were to support a commission, they'd lose their primaries, they would lose their base. The answer, though, in terms of holding them accountable is to have the federal government, the Justice Department, FBI, investigate what happened and if any of them were colluding or not, and if obviously they took illegal action. And then to hold them accountable at the ballot box in 2022 and remind people that these are individuals who really are subverting the democratic process.
Chip in Chicago, you're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Congressman. You two are straight shooters. I'm looking for a straight answer to what I think is a pretty simple question, that being DeJoy in the post office. He's been on the job for about a year by my count. The post office tracks everything, and it's pretty well known that his performance is, I don't know, down 25%. I don't know exactly, but the numbers are very bad. Any CEO in America would be fired by now. Any manager in baseball would be fired for his job performance. I realize it's the board's job to fire DeJoy. However, given literally how poorly his job has been, how is it that the board has not fired him yet? A. B, if the board won't fire him, then his performance is so bad that you'd have to say that is something worth firing the board over, because it is that bad. And then finally, the whole purpose of electing Democrats is to show that government works. So this is a case where there's a bad civil servant in the system, and we're not getting them out. So we're not really showing that government works if we're not getting rid of DeJoy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chip.
Chip, well put. I agree with everything you said. We need to get rid of DeJoy. He's been incompetent, and he is now the FBI is investigating him for his political donors. The board has shielded him, and the president should put pressure on the board if they're not going to hold him accountable. But it's important, in my view, to realize that this is not just a failure of someone who may be corrupt and incompetent. This is a failure of an ideology. DeJoy, putting aside the election shenanigans, thought that the privatization of the Postal Service, the institution of private metrics would make the Postal Service better, and it's made it worse. And the Postal Service deserves some credit for what they were able to do, have been able to do under his leadership in getting letters from one side of the country to the other at some 50 cents a piece of mail. And it shows the problem with DeJoy's worldview of privatization over everything else.
Cindy in Indianapolis, Indiana. You're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Yes, I'm just wondering why President Biden is not pushing back harder on the Republicans for these issues. He seems to be soft, and I voted for him. I want him to, I know sometimes the Democrat maybe have to go alone to get things done, because the Republican is not going to stand for it until he do something about it.
Cindy, I agree with you. I think it would be a total capitulation of the moment to agree to what the Republicans are putting forward. It's not bold. It has almost nothing on climate. It has nothing on many of the key provisions on child care, on elder care. It is not raising revenue where it wants to. And the biggest kicker here is the Democrats should not be in favor of keeping the Trump tax cuts. We have spent the last 4 years saying how unjust the Trump tax cuts are. You would think that the first thing we'd want to do is get rid of those unjust Trump tax cuts and not compromise in saying, well, let's just have those be permanent.
Congressman, we just have 40 seconds. There's a theory that the strategy that the Biden administration is playing out is build their popularity with what they've done so far and get it to the point where, you know, the public pressure will be overwhelming and the Republicans will have to capitulate. Many people think that's naive. I'm not even sure that's their strategy. Your thoughts on all that?
Well, look, I think the president's popularity is pretty good. It's in the low 50s, and I don't know if you can get higher than that in the modern context, where you have about 40% of the country believing that he isn't legitimately elected. So I think he has the political capital. Now's the time to govern.
Yeah, there you go. Now's the time to use it. 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls for Representative Ro Khanna. Right after this, you can find his website at Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov, or you can tweet him at @RepRoKhanna. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's our National Progressive Town Hall meeting with Representative Ro Khanna. We'll be right back. And welcome back. 45 minutes past the hour. And let's see here. Randy in Ottawa, Iowa. You are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Good day, Tom and Representative Khanna. Look, is the $15 an hour minimum wage still at the top of the, at the top of the stack when, with all these other, things that need to be done, with infrastructure and everything else? I drove by a chicken place today, and they were advertising jobs for $12 an hour. And I live in a state where Iowa, where $7 and something an hour is the minimum wage. And somehow or another, I feel we've got to get it across that if a working man can't support his family and he qualifies for welfare, then it's corporate welfare. So I'm going to shut up and listen to you, see what's new.
Thank you.
Very well. That's very thoughtful, and we need more people like you to share what you just said. You need to pay a family wage in this country. If you're not, you're basically subsidizing corporations, because otherwise the taxpayer is going to have to pay for the earned income tax credit or the nutrition benefits that families are going to need. So it's dehumanizing for people to be doing a hard day's work and not being paid fairly, and then having to rely on the government to make ends meet. And it's draining the taxpayer. Who does it benefit? It benefits the corporations. So we need examples like you just cited about jobs that should be paying $15 where people are underpaying them. And then we need a $15 wage. I have pushed so hard with a few others saying we needed to do it in the COVID relief, in reconciliation, overruling the parliamentarian. I feared that was our best chance. I'm still going to push. I'm going to try to push through the Arms and National Defense Authorization in the House Armed Services Committee where I'm at. But it's hard if we're not willing to overrule the parliamentarian.
Steve and Machado. Actually, I'll get back to that question.
I'm here.
Steve, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Okay, I'm wondering if there's any way to push back on the Supreme Court on its decisions about Citizens United and eliminating the parts of the Voters' Rights Act. I mean, the whole unconstitutional thing was something that was invented out of whole cloth by John Marshall 200 years ago, and we're supposed to have checks and balances, and there's no way to check the Supreme Court, and it desperately needs to be checked, particularly now.
Steve, we're running out of time. Is that your question?
That's all I got to say.
Congressman?
Well, Steve, you raised some important points. On the Voting Rights Act, if we pass a new Voting Rights Act, the court will hold that constitutional. They found the Voting Rights Act had expired based on statute, not based on constitutionality. So Roberts made the conclusion that the Voting Rights Act and the statute only was needed to be in existence until the situation improved, and he concluded the situation improved. If Congress explicitly says no, it hasn't, then the court will have to defer to Congress.
Right. He essentially said there's no more racism in America, right?
Well, that's a simple way of saying what I took a lot of words to say, Tom.
And the proof is we have a black president. I was like, really? Thank you.
And I wonder what Roberts would think of all these efforts across every state to suppress the vote.
Well, I mean, we may find out soon. We may find out soon. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Hey, we have a new video over at ThomHartmann.com. It's about this movement that has, it's being characterized in the media as being just, fringe wackadoodles, crazy people on YouTube, stuff like that, who are talking about how Democrats are torturing children to get the adrenochrome out of them, and Hillary Clinton is eating babies, and the ship in the Suez Canal, and how the really interesting one now, how if you get the vaccine for COVID that it will change your race. Yes, something that will make white people absolutely hysterical. The problem is this isn't just the Flat Earth Society. These aren't the people that we used to laugh at. This isn't just a few crazies on the edge. They just had a convention in Oklahoma, a serious convention where they were calling for Democrats to be put in front of a firing squad and shot. You need to check this out. It's over at ThomHartmann.com. And welcome back. Representative Khanna is with us and picking up your phone calls here. I was just reading an ad over on the for-profit side, and I lost my page here. There we go. Francis in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I'm just interested to know, with Trump starting his rallies tomorrow, are we going to have a select committee on the 1-6 commission? Because I think the further we get away from this, people are just like, well, it's over. Let's just move on.
We're absolutely going to have a select committee, and the Speaker has said that she's open to that. I expect that it will be appointed soon. So this is not over. There are too many people who care too deeply about what happened, an attack on our democracy, and we need to make sure that we get to the bottom of it and expose the bad actors.
Lowell in Salem, Oregon. You're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hi, Representative Khanna. I would like to ask what the status of H.R. 1976, the Medicare for All bill, is, and what committees it's stuck behind, and then also ask why Medicare for All isn't on the Democratic Party platform.
Well, these are both very good questions. They're stuck in the Energy and Commerce Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee. The main thing is we need to have leadership allow for a vote on the House. I believe they should allow for a vote. Even if we don't have the votes, it will help build momentum if we force people to take a vote on that. And we're going to push when the president comes up with health care to the Hill to strengthen the ACA. We're going to push for a vote, at least on Medicare for All. I voted against the party platform because they didn't have Medicare for All. We used to have a single payer in our party platform until about 1980. It was taken out during the Reagan Revolution. We ought to put it back in.
Judy in Carpentersville, Illinois. You are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah. I'm wondering what the reasoning is that a special counsel has not been appointed to for the January 6th insurrection.
Judy, it's a good thought. I mean, it's actually a very good point. I mean, do we have enough resources and attention at the Justice Department and the FBI to really investigate this. My sense is that a special prosecutor, especially if it was independent from the Biden administration, could give it the seriousness that is needed, and it's something I will share with people.
I mean, we brought in Ken Starr and $74 million to find out if Clinton was, getting it on with an intern. It seems like this is a little larger than that. Okay, Eric in Erie, Pennsylvania, you're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hey, good afternoon. Happy Friday, gentlemen. I have a question concerning the overlap in the Venn diagram of this kind of toxic white identity stuff, the types of guys that we see, Oath Keepers, guns, Klan, the January 6th type of guys, and the, military veterans dating, back to the Vietnam era and forward. A lot of these guys get tied up in this stuff. They're committing serious crimes. You've got General Flynn, who really conduct unbecoming at the very least. And I'm wondering if the Armed Services Committee would be able to do something in the UCMJ or elsewhere to review the benefit status of many of these people who are boasting and relying on their military training and attitudes and investing that energy into very anti-American activities. Can we review their benefit status for things like, misconduct and bust them down a rank or maybe cut them off?
Mark, respectfully, I don't think you can generalize about military veterans that way. I mean, I met many veterans. They serve honorably. Many times they come back. They don't have the resources that they deserve to pursue education, housing, to get the health care. Often they have mental health issues that go undiagnosed. So my focus would be on how do we honor our returning military veterans, give them the resources that they need so that they can have a fulfilling life back in civil society.
Congressman, we just have 40 seconds to the end of the hour. Your thoughts on where we should be focusing our attention, our activism in the coming weeks?
Tom, it's all about the infrastructure bill. And this infrastructure bill, I think, is symbolic of the Biden presidency of the next 4 years. Are we going to fight and push for our progressive values, or are we going to try to strike a deal with a Republican Party that doesn't have the country's long-term interest in mind and that will be woefully short of what people expect and want? The Progressive Caucus is going to be loud in the direction of bold, pass it, and we'll see what happens. But this is where the activism, I think, will make the biggest difference.
So calling your members of Congress and contacting them in other ways.
You could say that, Tom. What I could say is that that's the most important issue right now is infrastructure.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I keep trying to drag people into my apology. Thank you very much, Congressman Khanna, for dropping by today.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate it. We'll be back in the next hour with Anything Goes Friday. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More information at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. CB Distillery for sleeping and pain relief. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. Annie's Kit Clubs, creativity delivered right to your door. More info is available at annieskitclubs.com/Tom. EasyFlow, personal air filtration system. Fresh air anywhere. More info at easyflowusa.com, code TOM. Masterclass with world-class instructors. More info at masterclass.com/Hartman. And Dinovite, only the best all-natural pet supplements. More info at dinovite.com.
We say fight back!
So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV pledge drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me, the last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV pledge drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and you know, I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take Free Speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Fund Drive successful. We got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the Hidden History of American Oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to Anything Goes Friday. Picking up your phone calls in just a second. I just wanted to share a couple thoughts with you. Number one, Anthony Fauci, right? Pay some attention to this. The Republicans, it's like if you're a political party and you have nothing to offer the American people, if your sole allegiance in terms of actually passing laws and doing things is to billionaires, big corporations, and your base is basically white male racists, then what do you do? How do you perform in the world, right? How do you get support? What positions do you take? We've had the publisher of The Writing, R-I-G-H-T-I-N-G. It's T-H-E, the Writing, RIGHTING.com is the website. And basically what he does is he reads all these right-wing websites and boils them down every day in a little email newsletter, which I subscribe to. And this is just the top headlines. In fact, their subhead is the top headlines, top news headlines from the far right for the rest of us. So here they are. These are the top headlines from the top right-wing websites yesterday. Number one, this is from the American Thinker. Should COVID now be called the Fauci flu? Number two, from American Greatness. The Island of Dr. Fauci. Number three, from the Washington Examiner. What did Fauci know and when did he know it? Number four, from the New York Post. Rupert Murdoch's publication. Fauci's emails should put an end to the cult media built around him. From BPR, what was up with the nightly phone calls between Fauci and CNN's Cuomo? And, it goes on like that, right? Trump is going to give a speech this weekend. I think it's tomorrow in North Carolina. He's, in all probability, going to be ranting about Fauci. This is their new thing. They've got to have a villain. The Republicans understand this. And, Democrats, it seems, sometimes don't. We certainly understood it when we had Donald Trump. But the one great rule of writing fiction, and Louise and I, back 20, 30 years ago when I had hopes of being a fiction writer, I love reading fiction, so I thought I could write it, right? And I've written 7 novels, I think, and 2 of them have been published, and they're terrible. I mean, don't even bother. But we attended a whole bunch of seminars all over the country, particularly the Maui Writers Conference, which is fascinating, where you get these, world-class writers coming out and doing presentations, teaching aspiring writers how to write. And I remember one of the ones that really struck me was this major New York Times best-selling fiction writer. And he said, you need to spend a lot more time when you're constructing your characters on your villain. Everybody thinks that they need to build their good guy, their hero or heroine. But the one you really need to pay attention to is the villain. And you know, it seems counterintuitive until you think about, okay, what's, you know, like one of the most powerful movies and books ever out there, Hannibal Lecter, right? The villain. I mean, Clarice would just be an FBI agent if it wasn't for Hannibal Lecter. So Republicans get this, that if they're going to get people to pay attention and to coalesce around them, they've got to have a villain. Now, for the last 15 years or so, their principal villain was Hillary Clinton. She met a couple of criteria. Number one, she was a woman. Number two, she was a Democrat. Number three, she was sort of liberal. So it was like, okay, we'll go after her. And that was, you know, and that's what they did. Now it's Anthony Fauci. He's not a woman, but, you know, but what is going on here is that Donald Trump is trying very, very hard. I mean, you know, he's really working at this, trying to hand off the responsibility for 500,000 deaths, for 500,000 dead Americans who didn't have to die. Right? As of about 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was like 15 deaths in all of Taiwan, all this time. Now, they're having a new problem now there because one of the variants is really starting to rip through that country, as is happening all over the world right now. It's kind of a different point, but they just responded to the pandemic. Well, their first case was the same day that we had our first case, January 20th of 2020, last year. But they took it on. Trump didn't. So he can displace the blame from himself by putting all the blame for the pandemic on Anthony Fauci, number one. And number two, hey, why not? You got to have somebody as the villain. So expect to see a lot of that coming up. Second thought I wanted to share with you is an insight. Louise and I were kicking this around this morning, trying to understand, you know, what's up with Kyrsten Sinema. And you know, who went from being very progressive, right, being a social worker, being very progressive, climbing through the political, you know, as kind of a Bernie Sanders-like candidate, and now is sucking up to, you know, standing next to, you know, ingratiating herself to John Cornyn, the senator from Texas, and saying, no, I'm not going to blow up the filibuster. Why? And Louise was like, you know, this seems a lot to me like Roseanne Barr. Remember Roseanne Barr? She ran against Jill Stein in the primary to be the Green Party candidate for president. She came in number 2 on that, and so she ran on the Peace and Freedom Party's ticket, and you know, for president, and that didn't work for her, and then she became a Trump hole, you know, a Trumpy. So what was Roseanne Barr all about? She was all about, hey, pay attention to me. I mean, that was basically it. And I think that might explain what's going on with Kyrsten Sinema. Yesterday I was speculating, you know, is she being paid off? Is she being bought off by some, you know, right-wing billionaires? I think that's also possible. I don't know. You know, the bottom line is you just don't know. But when you see somebody whose political career is like literally all over the map, or political positions, I think you have to ask yourself, why? You know, does this person have no core values? Do they have any core values? Do they have any principles? So sadly, it appears no. Anyhow. That's my rant for the day. We got about a minute left. You know, that's not quite enough to put a caller on. So I've got 45 seconds. So I'll just finish this up. I do think that the Fauci thing, just to go back to Anthony Fauci, the Republicans are playing this because it is working for them. They're constructing this whole Fauci is the villain. Maybe he was even working with China. Maybe he even had something to do with the virus. You know, they're going to go after him. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Biden administration deals with this, because they're being hammered. They're being hammered hourly on Fox News, right-wing hate radio, filled with Fauci hate and Fauci fear. The right-wing media I just shared with you. And so does Joe Biden at some point say, okay, Anthony, you're out of here? I think that would be a mistake. By the way, if he does that, they'll just pick somebody else. I mean, it's, or does he say, oh yeah, that's those Republicans. They, you know, we're going to ignore them because they're just like, they're howling into the wind. I think that's the appropriate response to it. But, you know, if you don't live in the right-wing bubble, you probably didn't know that for the last 2 or 3 weeks, every day on every show, all over right-wing media and all the publications, in particular over the last week, it's been all Fauci hate all the time. It's amazing.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Expect to see more of the same. We'll be right back. And welcome back, Buddha in Los Angeles. Hey, Buddha, what's up?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Tom. First-time caller, long-time listener. About 6 years now.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to briefly go over the Tulsa issue and its significance in retrospect to religion.
Yeah, the Klan always presented itself as a Christian organization, for example. But
yes, actually, that's right on, spot on. I wanted to get right to it. The world's religion seemed to be, from the Western Hemisphere Olmecs to the Far East Buddha to Muhammad and his understanding of the old religion, as Bilal said, which was the original caller to prayer in Islam, all the way down to Jesus, who was, I'm a Christian school kid, 5th through 10th grade, which was said to have been in the book, they made us read it, the savior of the Jews. Not the entire, but that's what the red writing said. Now, everybody had respect for the deities, but when it came to Jesus, or if you will, I like to liken them to the Moors, because one is a religious book, one is or religious philosophy, one is a historic factor. So when the Moors ruled Europe from 711 to 1492, they would be repelled ultimately based upon the same consensus of Jesus. Who are you to tell us what to do? We have a mind of our own. I believe in this era we would say, well, I have self-determination. So within inside of that, they put him to the cross like Martin Luther King. And
so, Bruno, what's your point?
I believe that when we look at the religion aspect, as you said, the Klan was Christian. Well, the religion says to kill the black body so that we can have everlasting life as whites, not only drinking the blood, but eating the body. This is the consensus of the religious point. But when we get, now that's one perspective, but when we get down to the real meat, we must understand one thing. Jealousy was Tulsa. Black Wall Street. They had two airports, the state had one. Okay, there was one guy producing 200 oil barrels a day. One guy, one entrepreneur. So it was simple jealousy, and it doesn't need to be taken out of context past that. But I wanted to give a moral basis for what we're dealing with going forward.
And that is?
I believe that with the perspective taught from years ago traditionally, on the subconscious level, it could seem that Christianity may be constricting more so than liberating to its black and white followers of America.
Well, I think that's true of any religion, isn't it? I mean, basically, you know, the central tenet of any religion is believe the way we believe or you're screwed. You're damned.
Now, but originally, the moral center came from one culture. And that culture was, if you will, we call them today African. And he's not African because he's born in Africa. It's because he looks like those people who was born in him. That's African, Afro-Latino, Afro-Cuban, Afro-Asian, which is Semitic. Read the definition in the college dictionary, and it says the language and religion that comes from the Afro-Semitic, well, the Afro-Asiatic man. This solidifies his identity and his moral center.
But I got to run, but thank you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and interesting perspective. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. Stick around. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Well, the Confederacy continues to live. Governor Tate Reeves, the governor of Mississippi, just signed a proclamation making April the Confederate Heritage Month in Mississippi. That's kind of the bad news. The good news is that it didn't get published on the state's websites. It got published over on Facebook, where there's a good contingent of racists and neo-Confederates to begin with. But what does this say about America, that a part of the country that literally was a police state, a fascist police state, there was no democracy left by 1861 in the South. It was completely controlled by a few thousand families who owned these massive plantations. And in my little riff that's over at ThomHartmann.com for the supporters of our program, I go through some of the details of it. Just the sad, sad history of the South. It is really worth checking out. It's over at ThomHartmann.com. Okay, Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program, and Richard in Chicago. Hey, Richard, what's on your mind today?
Well, you were mentioning Fauci before, and my thought was that why isn't there a commission to look into the prior administration's mishandling of COVID? I mean, we're going to go look at Wuhan, and what are we going to learn? From they leaked, and you shouldn't leak from a virology lab. I mean, what are we going to learn? And yet we're going ahead with this, and it's just got to be. And if they're going to go after Fauci, it's just time for us to use the same tactics, and plus we'll learn from it. How did an administration kill 600,000 people, and why aren't they being held accountable? It's beyond my comprehension how something of that major could be a non.
If the shoe was on the other foot, they'd have Ken Starr back in Washington, D.C. again. They would have appointed a special prosecutor by now. There would be five different select committees.
They would have hung him.
Well, I don't know if they would have gone that far, but absolutely, Richard, and I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. Thank you for the call. Tom in London, England. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, today I'm calling you with a but call. And a but call meaning I agree with most everything you say, but.
Okay.
So I don't agree with some of the things I've been hearing about what happens with the Fed. The Fed can't spend; it can only lend. So I just wanted to make sure I make that point with you. What's been going on is they're lending against collateral, but they're not giving away money. Those companies and those bonds have to be paid back. And the second thing I just want to throw in with you is
they are. Well, hang on just a second, Tom. They are in the process. They announced yesterday that they are in the process now of selling back into the marketplace all those corporate bonds that they bought to support these giant corporations during the COVID time. What's your point relative to that?
Well, because when I hear it said sometimes on your show and in other places that the Fed is giving money to corporations, just giving them money, that's not quite right because they are loans. They
were buying bonds, which is loaning them money. Yeah, absolutely. And now they're selling those bonds.
And the second,
which has a lot of people concerned that if they start aggressively selling those bonds, that's going to crash the market. We'll see. I doubt it, but we'll see.
And the second thing I learned because of your show, by the way, all this is because of your show, but that's a long story. We know now that federal taxes, it's operationally impossible for them to fund any spending. That's impossible. Federal taxes, that's impossible. Also with that,
what does that mean?
Bond sales, Treasury. What that? Well, it's tied to two things. Also, the government doesn't borrow money. That's all reserve drain. When they sell Treasury bonds, that's done to drain reserves from the central banking system, not to borrow any money. The government is the currency issuer. It can't, it doesn't borrow its own money that it spends. Those bonds are bought with money already in the economy, and they're sold to drain reserves out of the central banking system, not for the government to acquire money to spend. But what I mean by the tax is that that's true. That's empirically true. And as far as the tax,
the Fed buys and sells bonds to influence the money supply. But we're wandering into like super wonk territory here, Tom. What is your point? What are you trying to say?
Well, it's just for the record. But as far as the taxes thing, yes, when your taxes are deleted out of your account, the money goes out of your account, and the reserves that correspond with that money go out of your bank's reserve account, and so that all
and it goes into the Treasury.
Just bookkeeping.
It just
that's bookkeeping.
Yeah,
that's bookkeeping. That's not money. That's not real money. When the government spends, that's all new funds.
Well, if you don't think it's real money, Tom,
new money.
Give me your checking account number. If it's not real money. Let me drain your account.
Bookkeeping, they're deleted. That's just bookkeeping. That's just bookkeeping. When the government spends, it's always new money. It's high-powered money.
Give me your checking account number.
It's high-powered money. Well, here's the point. When they spend, they spend reserves plus deposits into bank accounts. That's how the government spends. When they delete, the opposite happens. When they tax, the opposite happens.
Right.
So that's all that's going to the Treasury is just a record.
So is your point here, Tom, that the deficit doesn't matter? I mean, let's take this to something that the average person can understand, including myself. Yeah. Is your point that deficits don't matter? Is your point that the Fed is nasty? Is your point that this system doesn't work? Is your point that we should be on the gold standard to have real money? I mean, what are you trying to say here?
Oh. Okay, well, no, we should absolutely not be on the gold standard. Deficits don't matter, and we should definitely spend for public purpose. And so we should make sure our congresspeople don't give us, any kind of pushback saying we can't afford Medicare for all or we can't afford a Green New Deal. We can afford it because the way we spend in this country, where the political will goes, the money always follows.
Yeah,
and it's as simple as that.
Well, I can agree with you on all those points.
It's never a matter of affordability.
Yeah, and I mean, this is how we got out of the Great Depression. It's how we got out of the expenses of World War II. Tom, thank you for the call. After World War II, we were 126% of GDP in debt. And how did Eisenhower, a Republican president, get us out of that debt? Harry Truman had something to do with this, too, and Franklin Roosevelt. But how did we get out of that debt? He borrowed more money and built the interstate highway system, among other things. Infrastructure.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And that infrastructure provided the soil in which business could grow, and there was so much added business activity, economic activity, paid off the debt. So it's Friday. It's the last day of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. It is, or of this week, excuse me, the last day of the first week of the Free Speech TV Pledge Drive. And we've got a special match of, if you can make a donation of $5, all the way up to $5,000, your donation will be doubled today. This is a big deal, right? Mary in Kentucky, of course, had put up $5,000 if we can hit our goal for the week, and we're still way behind that. I mean, way behind that. And so to really get things going on this last day of the week, Jim in North Carolina, Suzanne in Virginia, Jane and Bill in New Jersey, an anonymous donor in California, and Brenda in Texas have put up enough money. They've said that they will double all donations up to $5,000. That's huge. Your gift will be doubled today. Whatever you can give, the impact of it will be 100% greater if that's doubled. I believe it is. So call now, 877-378-8669. As I said, did I say we're way behind? Yes, we're way behind. It's been, and I'll take some of the blame for this. I know at least one of the fund drives this week, I was kind of low energy, and we just can't take this stuff for granted. We can't take free speech TV for granted. We can't take funding our media for granted. I guarantee you Rupert Murdoch is not taking funding his media for granted. We can't be taking funding our media for granted. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and help make this first week of the Free Speech TV Summer Fund Drive successful. We've really got to do this. Democracy is on the line. These are critical times, and we need your help. Free Speech TV specifically needs your help. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of one of either two designs for the Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag. Perfect for any outfit from Free Speech TV. With a $75 gift, you can get the Thom Hartmann mug, the official Thom Hartmann Program collector's item mug. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of two Free Speech TV face masks or the Wilmington on Fire DVD. This is, we've been talking about race massacres around the country. This is a compelling documentary on an 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina. It's really well done. That's with a $100 gift. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which is a warning. I wrote this book. In fact, it went to the printer a week before the election. And so the first page of it is, when I sent this book off, I don't know who won the election, and if Trump held on to power, we need to be in the streets. If he didn't, we've got a lot of work we've got to do. And then the book goes through laying out all the things, how we got here and what we can do to get out of it. That's the hidden history of American oligarchy. So with a $120 gift, you have your choice of that book or a very stylish T-shirt designed by Free Speech TV viewer Barry, the Free Speech TV Justice T-shirt. Isn't that cool? With a $240 gift, you get your choice of the two-book set, our Reclaiming Our Democracy book set, which includes the Hidden History of American Oligarchy and the Hidden History of Monopolies. And by the way, it's the monopolies that kind of set up the oligarchy. So these two books actually, one flows into the other essentially. Or you can join us for a meet and greet on Zoom where, typically, I think we do these on average probably around once a month and get together with a dozen or so folks and hang out. And it's, not recorded, whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, and we can have a conversation. That's with a $240 gift. Your choice of either the two-book set or the virtual meet and greet. With the $360 gift, there is the Thom Hartmann University Summer Box Set with the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the Take Action, Make History Pride sticker, the Free Speech TV Real Change Comes from the Grassroots tote bag in two great designs, your choice, the Wilmington on Fire DVD, this documentary about that 1898 attack on African Americans in North Carolina, and the Thom Hartmann mug collector's item. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, hang out in our studio here, sit on the couch and get to know us, and I'll buy you lunch. So that's what's going on. We've got some really great people, some really great donors. There's a word to describe them. Frontline funders. We've got a couple of really great frontline funders who have stepped up. And thank you so much, by the way, to Mary and Jim and Suzanne and Jane and Bill and Anonymous and Brenda. Thank you so much for that. But your gift, as a consequence of these people standing up, your gift will be doubled today only. Call now, please. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Ask a boomer what it was like going to college back in the 60s and 70s and whether they had to go into debt to do it. And odds are they'll tell you that they not only didn't have to go into debt, in fact, college was free in California until Ronald Reagan became governor. Not only did they not have to go into debt, but you could pretty much work your way through college just with a part-time job. That is very much no longer the case. Only 8% of millennials and Gen Xers have never had a student loan. This is a crushing burden on these two generations, and it's time to clean it up. And when Americans were asked, what do you think? Should we just wipe the slate clean? Should we get rid of all this student debt? 60% of Americans said yes. And then, of course, the corollary to that would be, and then let's make college free, at least state colleges and community colleges. There's a whole video about this over at ThomHartmann.com for supporters of our program. Check it out there.
They are HelloFresh, the #1.
And welcome back. Anything Goes Friday. Oh, it was one other thing I wanted to share with you real quick, and then I'll just move along here. This is from today's Washington Post, and it's about a new study that came out of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And the study showed that nearly 1/3, I'm quoting from the Washington Post, the study showed that nearly 1/3 of those teenagers hospitalized with COVID-19 during a surge of cases early this year required intensive care, and 5% required mechanical ventilation. And then they go on, researchers suggest the increased hospitalization among adolescents. This is in March and April. They don't have the numbers yet for May. I'm assuming they'll be released in the next week or so. May be related to several factors, including more transmissible and potentially more dangerous virus variants, larger numbers of youths returning to school, and changes in physical distancing, mask wearing, and other prevention behaviors. The study looked at 204 youths aged 12 to 17 who were hospitalized between January 1st and March 31st. About 31% were admitted to an intensive care unit. 5% required invasive mechanical ventilation. Of those adolescents, 70% of them had an underlying medical condition. The most common one was obesity. 30%, though, had no underlying conditions and still ended up in the hospital. They go on to say, researchers said the cumulative COVID-19 hospitalization rates for adolescents during the October 1, 2020 through April 24, 2021 were 2.5 to 3 times higher than influenza-associated hospitalization events during the last 3 flu seasons that preceded this last year. So bottom line, teenagers, get vaccinated. And let's hurry up and get this vaccine available for people who are not yet teenagers. So anyhow, as I said, Anything Goes Friday, picking up your calls. Marco in Los Angeles. Hey, Marco, what's on your mind today?
What's on my mind is I want to talk about mobocracy, democracy in action, and everything unconstitutional Trump did from Lafayette Park to sending in those illegal posses to Oregon, Washington, and all the other states, and inciting the January 6th insurrection, and how all of it could have and should have been avoided. Regarding that January 6th mess, they all had their First Amendment right to peaceably assemble and voice any grievances. Any more than that was insurrection, and all inciting or participating in it need to be apprehended, tried, and if found guilty in prison. You know, Michael Cohen's in prison, and he did nothing compared to the coup that Trump incited. Right. As for democracy in action, a full view of it blatantly took place after the House investigated Trump's actions, then properly provided the Senate with airtight evidence that proved his guilt. Then 100% democracy occurred. All 100 senators, under strict impartiality oath by the Chief of the Supreme Court, which impartiality means they are each to deliberate on the evidence.
Hey, Marco,
alone.
Instead of reading something to me, just tell me what you're trying to say here. What's your point?
Okay. The 48.5 senators kept their sworn oath, saying guilty. 51.5 senators broke their sworn oath and said not guilty. So
what are you talking about, the first impeachment?
Yeah. So what Benjamin Franklin said, we got a republic if you can keep it, right. Which begs the question, who was the you he was talking about? Because if that you is we the people, then we must do what it takes to keep this republic.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Marco. But this is a representative democracy. We elect people to represent us, and they make the laws, rather than a pure democracy where we, the people, actually make the laws, which is sort of the whole ballot initiative thing. And
yes, but
so
what do we do when they represent us with broken oaths?
we vote them out. We get rid of them. We
recourse?
vote them out. And I'm increasingly beginning to agree with Jonathan Alter, who a couple of days ago said 2022 is going to be a blowout for the Democrats. I mean, maybe I was speculating earlier with Congressman Khanna. Why is it that Joe Biden is constantly negotiating with Republicans? Why doesn't he just push this stuff through? Why is it he's putting up with the Senate parliamentarian and stuff like that? And, maybe the theory is in the 2022 election, we'll blow out the Senate. We'll pick up 4 or 5, 3 or 4 or 5, whatever more seats. There's a bunch of Republican senators up for re-election or who are retiring, and there's a bunch of open seats. I think there's 7, 9, 11. It's some prime number out there. And so, if we can pick this up, we can do something. I don't think that's a wise strategy. I don't think we should procrastinate. But what I am seeing is well, I am just baffled by some parts of this. Marco, I got to move along. Thank you for the call. Charles in Miami. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. As far as procrastinating, I just think we're running out of time. We own the House and the executive. And what Joe Manchin is doing, I've been trying to preach to you for years that we needed to run progressives in those areas. Mm-hmm. And you've took no time and time again. And I'm going to stick to my guns because I feel like...
I agree with you, Charles. Look at what Bernie Sanders did in West Virginia in the primary.
Well, for years I've been saying. But anyway, I'm running off course here. I just think with Manchin, basically, the Republicans probably don't have to give them money or Sinema. All they got to do is say, we're not going to run somebody serious against you. That's all. But the reason why I'm calling today is because I'm disturbed by what's going on as far as, too big to fail. We're seeing it all over this country. With, first of all, it was the Texas power grid. Then it was the Colonial Pipeline and JBS. And if you think about it, with how many people died, like yesterday, the guy that was on your show gave an estimate of almost 700 people died.
Right,
the Colonial Pipeline, they're supplying 45% of the East Coast. And if JBS, that's the largest meat supply globally, we need to break up these monopolies. What
I agree. I wrote a whole book about that, Charles. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, but, right now, at this point, it's also a national security risk.
Yep.
It's a national security risk, America. We need new blood. We need fresh ideas. We need to empower diverse entrepreneurs. We need to retool. That would retool and renovate our workforce. We could invest more in R&D. We could perfect renewable energy sources. This would be Biden's version of the space race.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm completely with you. When the infrastructure bill was $2.5 trillion, I was gung-ho. If it gets whittled down to $1 trillion and the Republicans are insisting that 8/10 of that be money that has already been appropriated for other things, I say vote no for it. Do it right or don't do it. But it's and I realize hey, you're making the perfect the enemy of the good. But, at some point, things get watered down to the point that they just increase cynicism. I mean, this is the great lesson of the Clinton and the Obama years, is when you compromise with the Republicans and you just go, halfway or a third of the way or a quarter of the way along, and you really don't get anything big done, it just makes people cynical, and they don't show up to vote, and Republicans win. And that's the Republican strategy. That's why they're doing their obstruction. Charles, spot on. I salute you. Thank you. Scott in Charlevoix, Michigan, my mom's hometown. Hey, Scott, what's up?
Yep. Hey, thanks for taking my call. Wanted to see what you thought about attaching the phrase brute force whenever mentioning billionaires, multi-billionaires. If you're a billionaire, you've acquired brute force status.
Well, that's an interesting one. I've been using, morbidly rich as a phrase.
I bring this up because it reinforces the dominating threat without calling them, let's say, a glorified hoarder or a psychopath.
Right.
I think this is something that will,
Well, and
really make an
not
impact
all
with people.
billionaires fall into that category, but the old saying from the 1930s of behind every great fortune there's a great crime is often the case. I mean, it may not be a crime like somebody got a gun put in their face. It might be more a crime like Walmart puts 120 small family-owned businesses out of business every time they open a store in America. Which isn't legally a crime, but I think morally is a crime. But yeah.
Brute force.
Brute force billionaires. I like that. Yeah, brute force billionaires. We do have a billionaire problem in this country. I used to have a website. In fact, I may still have it. I have to go look, nobillionaires.com, with a rant on it. We put that together years ago. Scott, thank you for the call. And
thank you.
And it's great to hear from the town where both my parents are actually buried in Charlevoix, Michigan. Great to hear from you.
All right.
Thank you, Thank you, Scott. We'll be back. It's 45 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Anything Goes Friday, picking up your calls on the other side of this. And welcome back. Cassandra in White Plains, New York. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I think the strategy that the Biden administration ought to take in defending Dr. Fauci is identifying who is the real villain. The real villain here is the Chinese Communist Party, who covered up where the origin of the virus really is. And destroyed
if that's what they covered
evidence.
up. They certainly covered up the fact that they had it going on. For at least a month, they knew that they had a problem and they weren't telling anybody.
It's more than that. Dr. Xi Zhengli's lab, and they were good guys. I mean, they were going into the bat caves of Yunnan to collect specimens and try to identify what the origins of SARS were. But they brought back material to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which probably got out, and that is the origin of SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19.
Perhaps, yes.
It is a wild-type virus.
It's also possible that it was a pangolin or even a bat that was being sold in one of the many wet markets in Wuhan.
That's highly unlikely. Why would the Chinese government go to the trouble of asking Dr. Xi to destroy all of her specimens? I mean, that's the problem. I've been reading the medical literature.
Do we
I haven't
know that
been
that's
reading.
the case, Cassandra?
Yeah, excuse me?
Do we know that the Chinese government, the Chinese government has said, yes, we said, please destroy specimens?
Yeah, I think that is true. There are some whistleblowers who have said that.
Yeah, and a lot of those whistleblowers are getting a lot of play on Fox News right now, which, makes me wary.
The people who are talking on Fox News are talking about gain of function mutations and all of this other nonsense that they don't understand.
Yeah.
This is not a chimeric virus. This is not something that was created in the lab. And I think that Rand Paul and all of the idiots, who are supporting him, their bluff needs to be called. This is a wild-type virus. And if you go back to the medical literature from 2004 to 2017, these viruses have lived in these bat caves for decades. And, there are
centuries.
At least, there are dozens of viruses, and they interact with each other. SARS-CoV-2 is so similar that it's almost identical to a wild-type virus, and these viruses have had the capacity to infect human cells and to infect animals and to cause disease in lab animals.
Yeah, and
they
we've seen
really
this. So,
need
Cassandra,
to come clean.
Forgive the interruption, but we've got 20 seconds. To your original point, that is the Chinese Communist Party. Today is the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. I'm with you.
Right. Don't demonize the Chinese people. demonize the people who are covering up the information as to where this virus came from.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. Or who were covering up the fact that it had gotten loose in Wuhan, whether it came from a wet market or whether it came from the lab. In my mind, the question of whether it came out of a lab or whether it came out of a wet market is a fascinating academic question. But the political question, that should not be the political question. The political question should be why did the Chinese Communist Party essentially cover up the fact that they had a problem when they realized that they had a problem, regardless of where that problem came from.
It will happen again and again if they don't take action to
it's probably going to happen again and again anyway. I mean, we're invading wild spaces all over the world. I mean, that's the biggest, in my mind, that's the biggest lesson of all this, is that the more, the human population keeps bumping into wild spaces, the more we're going to be encountering viruses that we haven't seen before. Cassandra, thank you for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So there's a new study that this is not peer-reviewed, but it is in preprint. It is being peer-reviewed as we speak, where the scientists were looking at the ability of the COVID virus to jump from the human species. It started with bats, and then it apparently went to pangolins and then to humans. To jump from humans to other species, which would be a big problem. If we can infect other mammals, our cats and dogs, if we can infect rats or mice, who have traditionally been disease vectors for all kinds of things, from the bubonic plague to hantavirus, if we can infect them with this virus, we've got a whole brand new problem. And sure enough, they have found that these two variants, B351 and P1, both can infect mice in the laboratory. And they say this abrogation of the species barrier represents a serious problem. It's over at ThomHartmann.com. Check it out. And welcome back, George in Chicago. Hey, George, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is what's always on my mind is we can't say enough, those of us who listen to you constantly. Thank you for everything you and Louise and your staff do to educate and enlighten us.
Well, thank you, George. But that's not what you called about.
No, I think most of us have probably read the book Animal Farm at one time or another by George Orwell. Mm-hmm. And the most famous phrase in there is probably all of the animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Mm-hmm. And today we have the spectacle of a true insider, Don McGahn, who, to my mind, is a scofflaw and a fugitive from justice because he has been completely ignoring a legal and constitutional subpoena for about 2 years.
Yep.
And now he's testifying in front of a Senate committee, out of the public eye, confidentially, in secret. Do we even know if he's being sworn and put under oath? This guy is a criminal as far as I'm concerned. He's betrayed his oath as a lawyer.
I agree.
And yet he's being treated with kid gloves like this. Why?
Well, he's the guy who holds the smoking gun. He was there when Trump tried to fire. The main thing that we know, because it's in the Mueller report, is that Trump wanted to fire Jim Comey. Well, actually, it even goes beyond Comey. Trump wanted to fire Mueller. Trump called Don McGahn into his office and ordered him to fire Mueller. McGahn said, no, I can't do that. Then Trump ordered later, when that got leaked, Trump ordered McGahn to lie about it and to create a phony document saying that Trump never told him to fire Mueller. That's all obstruction of justice. It's criminal obstruction of justice on the part of Donald Trump. And Don McGahn was the guy in the room for that. So when you've got the guy in the room who could actually produce a criminal indictment against somebody else, you don't just beat them down. You draw what you can out of them, however you can get it. Am I making sense here, George?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Although what you said about Trump ordering McGahn to fire the special prosecutor that just betrays once again the fact that Donald Trump doesn't know or doesn't care about how the Constitution or the law works, because
Correct.
the White House is outside the reins and the structure of authority for that.
Well, McGahn did not have the authority to fire Mueller.
Or the president would have to fire him.
But basically, Trump was saying, go find somebody who has the authority to fire Mueller and make it happen. And McCann was just saying, no, can't do that. But I share your outrage, particularly over the last 2 years, and your opinion of Don McGahn. I don't disagree on that either. It's going to be interesting to see if any leaks come out of this committee hearing today. It's going to be fascinating. George, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Arthur, also in Chicago. Hey, Arthur, what's up?
How you doing this afternoon, Tom?
I'm well.
I'm thinking about. Oh, by the way, you were spot on about Fauci. Spot on. What this is the old, tired, pathetic playbook of the Republicans. Let's deflect. Let's project some accountability onto someone else.
Yep.
And Trump, and they're controlling. They're getting ready to present, and they have been, as you said, the last 2 weeks. I don't listen to or watch any right-wing hate radio or TV, but
it's
what
insane
Trump is doing, they're presenting a false narrative, and they're going to pound it into their base like it's 40 going north. But I don't understand. This is what I get. I believe Trump supporters are seriously suffering. They already had their prejudices and racism. They are seriously suffering the trauma of what I like to call PBPSD, post-black president stress disorder.
They certainly had whatever, they had present stress disorder when Obama was in the White House. Yeah, I think you're right, Arthur.
It blew their minds. It turned their egos upside down. It just smashed them.
Yeah.
The first black president, then he had the audacity to be intelligent, charming, a lawyer,
thoughtful,
who graduated
a
from
great
Harvard.
Husband.
Yes, a great husband, a great family man, a good Christian, all of this stuff that the Republicans purport to be their to own, and it's like tomorrow it's like, who are they? I mean, are they just slow? Don't they know them? Have they never in your years encountered a liar or a con man? Don't they know it when they see it? Don't their instincts tell them?
Well, that's a good question, Arthur, and I don't know the answer to that. I suspect it varies from person to person, but broadly, I think what most Republicans are saying is this, Trump and about all these other elected Republicans. These guys hate the same guys I hate, right? These, basically, they're racist. They're white racists. The Republican Party has become just basically an entirely white racist party. This is what my rant yesterday. And that's enough for them. I really think that's enough for them. I don't think they care about the things that they've professed in the past. Arthur, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Thanks for listening to WCPT. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Joyce the Hammer Nance, Nigel Peacock, Student Advocate, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jabbermaki, and Jay LeBlanc. Thank you all to all the great folks who helped make this program go. Thank you to our affiliates, however you're getting this show. Thank you to you for listening, watching, however you may be interacting with us. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We got to pull this republic back from the brink. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit ThomHartmann.com.
Not only are the rich different from you and me, they're getting more different.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More information at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. CB Distillery for sleeping and pain relief. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. Annie's Kit Clubs, creativity delivered right to your door. More info is available at annieskitclubs.com/Tom. EasyFlow, personal air filtration system. Fresh air anywhere. More info at easyflowusa.com, code TOM. Masterclass with world-class instructors. More info at masterclass.com/Hartman. And Dinovite, only the best all-natural pet supplements. More info at dinovite.com.